Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it, then let's evaluate together. Yo, what's good, everyone? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Hit that subscribe button to dive into this epic love story. The wind screamed through the steel canyons of Manhattan, cutting through Lena Brooks's threadbare janitor's uniform like a knife. She stood frozen on the 42nd floor balcony of Vertex Tower, her broom forgotten at her feet, her heart hammering so loud it drowned out the city below. New York's skyline glittered in the distance, dazzling, untouchable, a world that didn't belong to a Harlem girl like her. She'd been mopping the executive suite, humming Billie Holiday's Blue Moon through her earbuds, when she'd heard the glass door creak open. Now her breath caught in her throat, not from the cold, but from the sight before her, a man in a tailored suit standing on the edge of the balcony, gripping the railing like it was the only thing tethering him to life. Lena's stomach dropped. She didn't know his name, but she'd seen his face plastered on company posters. Alexander Chen, the CEO of Vertex Innovations, the guy who ran this corporate empire. And right now, he looked one heartbeat away from jumping into the void. Hey. Lena's voice cracked louder than she intended. If you're trying to be Spider-Man, pick a night that ain't freezing, all right? He flinched his head, snapping toward her, his gray eyes red-rimmed and hollow, locked onto hers in the dim light. His face, sharp and handsome despite the shadows, was etched with a despair that hit Lena like a punch. "Who are you?" He rasped, his voice raw like he'd been shouting into the wind. "Why are you here, Lena?" "Janitor." She took a cautious step forward, hands raised like she was calming a spooked animal. "And I'm here 'cause I don't want to clean up a mess bigger than this floor. Come down, talk to me. I ain't calling the cops, I swear." He let out a bitter laugh, the sound sharp and hollow. "You don't get it. I'm not worth saving." Lena's chest tightened. She knew that look, had seen it in her mom's eyes after her dad's accident, in her own reflection, when the bills piled higher than her dreams. "My mama says everybody's worth saving, even guys in fancy suits who think they got the world figured out." She forced a grin, hoping it hid her panic. "Come on, one glass of water, one story. You pick." He stared at her, his grip on the railing loosening just a fraction. For a long moment, neither of them moved, the wind howling between them like a warning. Then slowly, he stepped back from the edge, his shoulders slumping as if the fight had drained out of him. Lena exhaled, her legs shaky, and gestured toward the glass door. "Inside. Warmer in there, and I got water with your name on it." He followed her into the corner office, a cavernous space that screamed money, minimalist grays and blacks. A massive desk facing floor-to-ceiling windows, the Manhattan skyline sprawling like a painting. Lena flicked on a single lamp, just enough to see by. Her mom's voice echoed in her head. "Don't waste electricity, mija." The man Alex, she'd learned soon enough, sank into a leather chair looking smaller than his broad frame suggested. Lena rummaged in the office's sleek kitchenette, grabbing a glass and filling it from the filtered tap. She slid it across the desk to him. "Drink. Mama swears water fixes everything, even a night like this." He took the glass, his fingers brushing hers, and muttered, "Thanks." He looked at her eyes, narrowing like he was trying to figure out if she was real. "I'm Alex. Lena Brooks." She plopped into the chair across from him, ignoring how out of place she felt in this room that probably cost more than her entire apartment. "So, Alex, what's got a guy like you staring down Manhattan like it's your last view?" He blinked, caught off guard by her directness. "You don't hold back, do you? Grew up in Harlem. You learned to cut through the noise." She leaned back, studying him. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, late 30s maybe, with a strong jaw and dark hair streaked with silver at the temples. But those eyes, stormy and haunted, told a story deeper than his polished exterior. "Your turn. What's eating you?" He took a long sip of water, his gaze drifting to the city beyond the windows. It's complicated. His voice cracked, and he cleared his throat. Today was my father's birthday, the first one since he died. Lena's heart softened. She knew that kind of pain, the kind that sneaks up and rips you open. I'm sorry. Losing a parent, it's like losing a piece of yourself. He nodded barely, his fingers tightening around the glass. He built this company from nothing, gave up everything for it, his health, his family, me, and now it's mine and I'm... His voice broke again, and he looked away. I'm destroying it. The board's circling, the stock's tanking, and the merger I pushed for is falling apart. He warned me, and I didn't listen. Lena leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. Sounds like you're carrying a whole lot of weight for one guy. But you're still here fighting. That's got to count for something, right? He met her eyes, surprised, like no one had ever framed it that way. You don't even know me. Why do you care? She shrugged, a small smile tugging at her lips. 'Cause you're human and you're hurting. That's enough for me. She paused, then added, My dad died when I was 17, hit by a drunk driver while driving his bus route. Left behind a shoebox with $3,000 he'd saved for my college. Not enough for a degree, but enough to show he believed in me. Alex's expression softened, the hardness in his eyes giving way to something warmer. What did you do? Got mad at first. Thought he should have saved more, worked harder. Can you believe that, blaming my dead dad for not being Superman? She shook her head, laughing softly at her younger self. Then I realized he gave what he could, out of love. Holding on to anger was just poisoning me. Alex was quiet, absorbing her words. Your dad sounds like he was a good man. He was. Complicated like all of us, but good. Lena tilted her head, studying him. Your dad trusted you with this company. He must have believed in you even if he didn't say it. He let out a hollow chuckle. You didn't know him. He wasn't big on warm fuzzies. It was always about the legacy, the bottom line. Parents are messy, Lena said with a shrug. Doesn't mean they don't love us. For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched Alex's lips. You're wise for a janitor, and you're sadder than a CEO ought to be, she shot back, grinning. Guess we're both full of surprises. He laughed, a real laugh, warm and unguarded, that changed his whole face. Lena's breath caught. Without the weight of grief, he was striking the kind of handsome that could stop traffic. Not that it mattered. Guys like him didn't see women like her, not really. She was just a fleeting moment, a random kindness in the dark. They talked longer than she expected, the conversation flowing easy, like they'd known each other forever. Lena shared stories of Harlem street fairs, jazz clubs, her mom's legendary cornbread. Alex opened up about his dad's relentless drive, the way Vertex had been his father's whole world. By the time Lena glanced at her phone, it was well past midnight. Shoot. I gotta finish this floor before my shift ends, she said, standing and brushing off her uniform. You gonna be okay, Alex? He nodded, looking genuinely surprised by his own answer. Yeah, I think I will be. Thanks, Lena, for the water and the perspective. Anytime. She flashed a teasing smile. Well, Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. You know where to find me. That drew another laugh from him, and Lena felt a strange pride at the sound. She grabbed her cleaning caddy, heading for the door. Night. Alex. Night, Lena. He called after her, his voice carrying an odd note, like he was saying goodbye to more than just the moment. She moved on to the next office, the rhythmic swoosh of her mop grounding her. But as she worked, her thoughts kept drifting back to Alex, those stormy eyes, that broken laugh. She wondered if he'd found some peace, if her words had helped, or if she'd just been a brief distraction from whatever demons he was wrestling. By the time her shift ended, dawn was creeping over the city, painting the skyline in soft pinks and golds. Lena stepped out of Vertex Tower, the cool morning air, a sharp contrast to the sterile warmth inside. She pulled out her phone, scrolling absent-mindedly when a headline caught her eye. Vertex Innovations faces turbulent times under CEO Alexander Chen. The photo showed Alex polished and commanding worlds away from the man she'd met. Her jaw dropped. CEO. Billionaire. Untouchable. Lena Brooks. "You done lost your mind," she muttered, shoving her phone back in her pocket. She just talked a billionaire off a ledge, shared stories like they were old friends. Harlem wouldn't believe this in a million years. She caught the subway home, the train rattling through the early morning quiet. Her tiny apartment in Harlem smelled of coffee and cornbread, her mom already up, despite the hour. Constance Brooks, 58, and weathered by arthritis, sat at the kitchen table, her hands steady as she chopped greens for dinner later. "Morning, mija," Constance said, her voice warm as always. "Rough night." Lena dropped her keys on the counter, sinking into a chair. "Mama, you ain't gonna believe this. I just had the wildest shift." Constance raised an eyebrow, her knife pausing mid-chop. "Wilder than the time you found that lawyer passed out in the break room, way wilder." Lena leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I found the CEO of Vertex on a balcony looking like he was about to jump. Pulled him back, gave him water, and we ended up talking for like an hour." Constance's eyes widened. "The CEO child. You out here saving billionaires now?" Lena laughed, shaking her head. "He's just a guy, Mama. A sad one. Name's Alex. Didn't feel like a billionaire when he was spilling his heart out. Well, I'll be." Constance set her knife down, a sly smile spreading. "You got a gift, Lena Brooks. Always seeing the human in folks, even the ones in penthouses." "Don't start, Mama. He's probably forgotten my name by now." Lena grabbed a piece of cornbread, popping it in her mouth. But as she chewed, a small part of her wondered if that was true. Those gray eyes had looked at her like they'd seen her, really seen her in a way no one had in a long time. Constance watched her, her gaze knowing. We'll see about that, mija." Lena rolled her eyes, but a spark of something hope maybe flickered in her chest. She pushed it down, focusing on the familiar comfort of home. Whatever that moment with Alex had been, it was over. Just another strange night in the life of Lena Brooks, Harlem's unsung hero. Wow, what a start, right? Will Lena and Alex cross paths again, or was this just a fleeting moment? Subscribe and drop a comment with your thoughts. Let me know what you think happens next. Stay tuned for the next chapter of this unforgettable love story. Lena Brooks had never been the center of attention, and she liked it that way. In Harlem, she could blend into the rhythm of street vendors and jazz drifting from corner bars. But in the Vertex Tower cafeteria, with its gleaming chrome tables and suits buzzing like bees, she felt like a fish in a spotlight. She was emptying trash cans, her gray janitor's uniform blending into the background when a voice cut through the lunchtime chaos like a blade. "Lena." Her head snapped up, heart-lurching. There he was, Alexander Chen, CEO of Vertex Innovations, striding toward her in a navy suit that probably cost more than her rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his gray eyes clear and focused, a far cry from the broken man she'd pulled off a balcony a week ago. The cafeteria went quiet, heads turning, whispers rippling. Lena's hands tightened on her trash bag, her face burning. "What was he doing, Mr. Chen?" she said, her voice low, hyper-aware of the curious stares. Nobody expected the CEO to know a janitor's name, let alone call it out like they were buddies. "Alex," he corrected, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "I told you none of that Mr. Chen stuff." He stopped a foot away, close enough for her to catch the faint cedarwood scent of his cologne. You got a minute? I owe you a proper thank you for the other night." Lena blinked, caught between mortification and a flutter she refused to name. "I'm working, Alex. Trash doesn't empty itself." He chuckled, the sound warm and disarming. "I'm technically your boss's boss's boss, so I'm pretty sure I can swing you a 5-minute break." He gestured to a quiet corner of the cafeteria, his expression earnest. "Please." She couldn't argue with that logic, not with half the room watching. Reluctantly, she set down her trash bag and followed him, ignoring the whispers that trailed her like smoke. The corner was tucked away from the main bustle, a small oasis of calm. Alex leaned against a wall. His posture relaxed, but his eyes intense, like he was solving a puzzle. "I've been thinking about our talk," he said, his voice softer now. "You didn't have to stay, didn't have to care, but you did. Most people would have bolted from the crazy guy on the ledge." Lena crossed her arms, a half-smile creeping out. "Like I said, you weren't crazy, just sad. Big difference. Thanks to you, I'm a little less sad now." He studied her, his gaze so direct it made her squirm. "I want to take you to dinner, as a thank you." Her stomach flipped. Dinner, with a billionaire CEO. She laughed, more out of nerves than humor. "Alex, I don't exactly fit in at the kind of spots you probably roll up to. I'm more a food truck girl than a Michelin star one. Then I'll find a food truck with the best damn tacos in New York," he said, grinning. He pulled a business card from his pocket, flipping it to reveal a handwritten number on the back. "My personal cell." "Think about it, Lena. No pressure." She stared at the card like it might bite her. Heavy cream stock embossed with the Vertex logo, it screamed money. "This ain't necessary, Alex. Maybe not, but I want to." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I don't meet many people who see past all this." He gestured vaguely at his suit, the cafeteria, the weight of his world. Before Lena could respond, a sharp voice interrupted. "Alex, the Nakamura team's waiting in the boardroom." A tall woman in a sleek black pantsuit. Vivian, his assistant, stood nearby, her eyes flicking between them with barely veiled curiosity. "I'm coming, Viv," Alex said, not breaking eye contact with Lena. "Just think about it," he added softly, then turned to follow his assistant. Lena watched him go, the card heavy in her palm. What the hell just happened? Was Alexander Chen, billionaire CEO, asking her on a date? No, she told herself, just a thank you dinner. A polite gesture from a guy who'd been at his lowest. She should toss the card and move on. Instead, she slipped it into her pocket and returned to her trash cans, ignoring the speculative glances from coworkers who'd caught the exchange. By the time her shift ended, the rumor mill was churning. Lena kept her head down, changed into her street-clothes jeans and a worn leather jacket, and bolted for the subway. The late spring air was warm, sticky with city grit as she walked the 3 blocks from Vertex Tower. She pulled out the card again, tracing the precise blue ink of Alex's number. "This is nuts," she muttered, tucking it away. She wasn't calling. What would they even talk about? Her life of night shifts in community college versus his penthouse and private jets. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. "Don't forget my meds, mija." Reality check. This was her world. Harlem hospital bills scraping by. Not fancy dinners with CEOs who probably saw her as a curiosity, a fleeting distraction. The subway was packed with early evening commuters, the air thick with sweat and perfume. Lena grabbed the overhead rail, her thoughts drifting back to that night on the balcony. Alex's pain had been so raw, so human. For a moment there'd been no hierarchy, just 2 people connecting over loss. But daylight had a way of resetting the world's order. He was Alexander Chen, and she was the woman who emptied his trash. Back in Harlem, her apartment was a sanctuary of familiar chaos. The scent of collard greens and cornbread hit her as she dropped her keys on the counter. Constance Brooks sat on their worn sofa, her hands steady, despite the arthritis working on a quilt that'd probably end up at the church bazaar. At 58, she looked older. Her once vibrant face lined her thick hair streaked with gray, but her eyes still sparkled with mischief. "Long shift?" Constance asked, setting her needle down to take the pharmacy bag Lena handed her. "Long and weird," Lena said, collapsing into a chair. "Mama, you won't believe what happened. That CEO I told you about, Alex. He tracked me down in the cafeteria, asked me to dinner." Constance's eyebrows shot up. "Dinner with the billionaire child, you out here collecting hearts now?" Lena groaned, tossing a pillow at her. "It's not like that. He's just being nice, 'cause I helped him out." Helped him. How Constance's tone turned suspicious, her mama bear instincts kicking in. "Can't say. I promised." Lena busied herself with a stack of mail, avoiding her mom's piercing stare. "Point is, it's not a date. Just a thank you." Constance picked up her quilting, her fingers nimble. "You should go." Lena's head snapped up. "What? No way, Mama. Absolutely not." "Why not? When's the last time you did something for you, Lena? All you do is work, study, and fuss over me." Constance's voice was gentle but firm. "'Cause that's my life," Lena countered. "And dinner with Alexander Chen. That's not even in my universe. We got nothing in common. Except you helped him with this mysterious something, and he cared enough to find you and ask you out." Constance raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like you got humanity in common at least." Lena shook her head, exasperated. "It'd be awkward as hell. What would we talk about?" "My student loans." "His yacht." "You'll never know if you don't go," Constance said simply. "It's a dinner, mija, not a marriage proposal. Life throws you gifts sometimes. Don't be a fool and leave 'em unopened." Lena sighed, knowing her mom wouldn't let this go. "I'll think about it," she said, mostly to end the conversation. But as she showered off the day's grime, the idea stuck like a song she couldn't shake. She kept pulling out Alex's card, staring at the number, then shoving it back in her pocket. It was silly. She was silly. The rational part of her brain laid it out: best case, an awkward meal where they fumbled for common ground. Worst case, she'd embarrass herself and have to face him every time she cleaned his office. Still, by the next evening, as she prepped for her night shift, something in her rebelled against the safe path. Maybe Constance was right. Life didn't hand women like her many surprises. Was she really going to pass up the chance to see what this one held? Before she could overthink it, Lena grabbed her phone and dialed the number on the card. Her heart raced, expecting voicemail or an assistant. "This is Alex Chen." His voice answered after 2 rings, smooth and warm. Lena swallowed. Hi. It's Lena Brooks. From the other night." "Lena," he sounded genuinely pleased, and her nerves eased a fraction. "I'm glad you called. Does this mean you're up for dinner?" His directness threw her. "I guess so. But fair warning, I'm not cut out for those bougie spots you probably hit up." She could hear the grin in his voice. "Duly noted. I eat food like a regular human, I promise. Let me handle the place, you just tell me when you're free." Lena glanced at her calendar pinned to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a jazz trumpet. "I'm off tomorrow night. Tomorrow it is. 7 p.m. I'll pick you up. Text me your address." "Sure," she said, wondering what alternate universe she'd stumbled into. They exchanged a few more words, and she hung up, staring at her phone like it might sprout wings. Lena Brooks had a dinner date with a billionaire. What was she gonna wear? The next evening, Lena stood in front of her mirror, second-guessing everything. She'd settled on a simple black dress her mom had tailored to fit like a glove, paired with her only nice heels. Sophia Tate, her best friend and Harlem's sassiest hairstylist, had swung by to braid her hair into an elegant updo, all while grilling her about the date. "Girl, you're out here dining with a billionaire, and didn't tell me," Sophia said, her hands flying as she worked. Does he know how to eat soul food, or is he one of those kale smoothie types? Lena laughed, swatting Sophia's arm. He's cool, Soph. Just different. I don't even know why I'm doing this. 'Cause you're curious and you deserve a night out, Sophia said, pinning a braid in place. But if he tries to take you to some place with tiny portions you call me, I'll bring you some real food. By 7, Lena was pacing her apartment, nerves jangling. When her phone buzzed with a text, "I'm downstairs," she took a deep breath and headed out. Alex stood by a sleek black car, dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark jeans. No tie, no suit. He looked normal almost, and it threw her off. "Wow," he said, his eyes lighting up as she approached. "You look incredible." She flushed, smoothing her dress. "Thanks. You clean up okay yourself." He opened the car door for her, and she slid in, half expecting a chauffeur. Instead, Alex got behind the wheel, driving them through the city's neon glow. "No fancy spots tonight," he said. "I found a place I think you'll like." The restaurant was a cozy taco joint in the Lower East Side, all fairy lights and mismatched chairs, the kind of place Lena would have picked herself. They grabbed a corner table, the air thick with the scent of grilled carne asada and fresh cilantro. Over tacos and horchata, they talked. Really talked. Lena told him about growing up in Harlem, the jazz clubs her dad used to sneak her into, the way her mom's laugh could light up a room. Alex shared snippets of his life. His dad's relentless ambition, his mom's absence, the pressure of running Vertex. "You ever miss just being a regular guy?" Lena asked, licking salsa off her thumb. All the time, he admitted, his eyes locked on hers. "That's why I'm here eating tacos with you, instead of at some boardroom dinner." She laughed, but her heart did a little flip. When he reached across the table, his hand brushing hers, it felt like a spark igniting. Their eyes met, and for a moment the world shrank to just them. No titles, no barriers, just Lena and Alex. As they left the restaurant, the city buzzing around them, Alex walked her to the car, his hand grazing her back. "Can I see you again?" he asked, his voice low. Lena hesitated, her rational side screaming to pump the brakes, but her heart had other plans. "Yeah," she said, smiling. "You know where to find me." Lena Brooks had never been one for fairy tales, but lately her life felt like it was veering dangerously close to one. A month after that taco dinner with Alexander Chen, she was spending her weekends in places she'd only seen in movies. Central Park, picnics with gourmet sandwiches, rooftop bars with views that made her dizzy. Even Alex's penthouse, where the fridge was stocked with craft beer and the windows framed Manhattan like a postcard. It was surreal, thrilling, and a little terrifying, like stepping into someone else's story. Tonight, though, she was back in her element, a sweaty, pulsating R&B club in Harlem, the kind of place where the bass thumped through your bones and the drinks came in plastic cups. Lena had dragged Alex here half as a test half, because she wanted to see him out of his polished CEO shell. The club was alive with laughter bodies swaying to a cover of Alicia Keys' "If I Ain't Got You." Lena, in a red dress that hugged her curves, moved to the beat, her braids swinging. Alex, in a black button-down and jeans, looked like a fish out of water, his movements stiff as he tried to keep up. "Alex, you dance like you're signing a contract," Lena teased, grabbing his hands and pulling him closer. "Loosen up. Feel the music." "I'm a CEO, not a dancer," he shot back, but his grin was boyish, unguarded. "I'm trying, but you're making me look bad out here." "Keep up, or I'm trading you for someone who can," she said, laughing as she spun away, her dress flaring. The crowd whooped, and Alex, to his credit, didn't back down. He caught her waist, pulling her back, and for a moment their bodies moved together, the heat of the club wrapping them in a cocoon. His hands were warm through the thin fabric of her dress. His gray eyes locked on hers, and Lena's breath hitched. This wasn't just dancing. It was something else. Something that made her heart race, and her skin tingle. "Better," she murmured, her lips close to his ear. You might survive Harlem yet. Only 'cause I got the best teacher, he said, his voice low, sending a shiver down her spine. They danced until sweat glistened on their skin, until the DJ switched to a slower jam, and the crowd thinned. Lena led Alex to a corner booth, grabbing 2 beers from the bar. So, she said, sliding in beside him. What's the verdict? Harlem too much for you? He took a swig, his eyes never leaving hers. Harlem's got nothing on you, Lena Brooks. I'm hooked. Her cheeks warmed and she nudged his shoulder to cover it. Smooth talker. Bet you say that to all the girls who save your ass from a balcony. Only the ones who change my whole damn world, he said, and the sincerity in his voice stopped her cold. He reached for her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, and the air between them crackled. Lena wanted to crack a joke, keep it light, but her heart was shouting louder than her head. She leaned in, and when their lips met, it was like the club, the city, the whole world fell away. The kiss was soft at first, then hungry, a promise of something deeper than either of them could name. They pulled apart breathless, and Lena laughed a little dazed. Okay, Chen, you're officially trouble. Takes one to know one, he said, stealing another. Quick kiss before they settled back. The booth feeling smaller, warmer, like it was built just for them. But fairy tales, Lena knew, always had a catch. The catch came a week later at Vertex's Autumn Gala, a glitzy affair at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Lena had agonized over her outfit, settling on a burgundy gown Constance had altered with delicate beadwork, turning a department store find into something that could hold its own among designer labels. Alex picked her up in a town car, his tuxedo making him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. You're stunning, he said, his eyes wide as she slid in beside him. Don't get used to it, she quipped, smoothing her dress. This is as fancy as I get. The Met was a dreamscape, crystal chandeliers, towering floral arrangements, and a string quartet weaving through the crowd. Lena felt like an imposter, her heels clicking on marble floors, as Alex introduced her to colleagues and clients. Most were polite, but their smiles didn't always reach their eyes, and their questions about her job, her education, carried a subtle edge. She held her own, her Harlem wit sharp, but the weight of their gazes was heavy. She was catching her breath at the bar, sipping a glass of champagne, when trouble found her. Vivian, Alex's assistant, glided over in a silver gown that screamed money, her smile as sharp as a blade. You clean up nicely, she said, the double entendre landing like a slap. Lena forced a smile. Thanks. You look great too. Vivian accepted the compliment with a nod, her eyes calculating. I've been meaning to talk to you about Alex. He's distracted lately, missing meetings, making rash calls. The board's concerned. Lena's grip tightened on her glass. If the board's got issues, they should take it up with him. I'm trying to do you a courtesy, Vivian said, sipping her martini. Alex is at a crossroads. His father's legacy is on the line. He can't afford distractions. And I'm a distraction, Lena said flatly, her anger simmering. You're a lovely woman, Vivian replied, her tone dripping with condescension. But you must see how this looks. The CEO of a Fortune 500 company with a janitor, it raises questions about his judgment. Lena set her glass down with deliberate care, afraid she might throw it. I'm a nursing student who cleans to pay my bills, and Alex's judgment seems just fine to me. For now, Vivian said, her voice soft but cutting. But the novelty wears off. I've seen his type before, fascinated by women who are different. It never lasts. Before Lena could fire back, a silver-haired woman in a Chanel dress joined them, her smile as fake as her tan. Vivian, darling, who's your friend, Eleanor? This is Lena Brooks, Vivian said, emphasizing Lena's last name. Alex Chen's girlfriend, Lena. This is Eleanor Whitfield, wife of a board member. Eleanor's eyes lit up with recognition. Oh, the cleaning girl. How charming. Her tone made Lena's skin crawl. And now you've found a better way to pay the bills, haven't you? Lena's jaw clenched. Excuse me. Don't play coy, dear, Eleanor said, patting Lena's arm like she was a child. Alex gets his little adventure, and you get whatever he's offering. Everyone wins. Vivian looked uncomfortable but didn't intervene. Lena's blood boiled, but she kept her voice steady. Mrs. Whitfield, you got it all wrong. My relationship with Alex ain't about his wallet or his status. Maybe that's hard for you to wrap your head around. Eleanor raised an eyebrow, unfazed. Enjoy it while it lasts, dear. Men like Alex don't marry women who complicate their world. She glided away, leaving Lena reeling. Vivian set down her glass, her expression almost sympathetic. She's harsh, but not entirely wrong. Alex's father expected him to marry someone who fits socially, professionally. It's not about you, Lena. It's just the reality of his world. Lena's throat tightened. I need air, she muttered, turning toward the terrace doors. The cool night breeze hit her like a lifeline, and she leaned against the stone balustrade, staring out at Central Park's twinkling lights. Vivian's words echoed, tapping into her deepest fears. Was she just a passing thrill for Alex? A rebellion against his buttoned-up life? Lena Alex's voice pulled her back. He stepped onto the terrace, his tuxedo slightly rumpled, concern etched on his face. I've been looking for you. Everything okay? She forced a smile, her heart still raw. Just needed a breather. This place. It's a lot. He frowned, reading her too well. What happened? You look upset. She sighed, knowing she couldn't hide it. Ran into Vivian and some board member's wife. They had opinions about us. Said I'm a distraction, that you'll get bored once the novelty wears off. Alex's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing. That's bullshit. Vivian had no right. Is it true? Lena cut in, turning to face him. That you've got a thing for women who don't fit your world until you move on? He hesitated just a beat too long, and her stomach sank. It's not that simple, he said, running a hand through his hair. I've dated outside my circle before. Yeah, and it didn't work out. But you're different, Lena. I've never felt this way about anyone. She wanted to believe him, but doubt was a stubborn weed. How am I different, Alex? 'Cause right now I feel like I'm playing a role in your world, and I don't know if I can keep up. You're not a role, he said fiercely, stepping closer. You're Lena Brave, real the woman who saw me when I was falling apart. I'm not playing games here. His intensity shook her, and when he cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks, she felt her walls crumble. I don't want to lose you, he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. Then don't. She whispered, her voice trembling. Their lips met, and the kiss was desperate, hungry, a collision of need and fear. Lena's hands gripped his jacket, pulling him closer, and his arms wrapped around her, anchoring her against the storm of doubt. The world faded the gala, the whispers, the weight of their differences, until it was just them, tangled in the dark. They broke apart breathless, and Alex's eyes burned with something raw. Come home with me, he said, his voice rough. Let me show you how real this is. Lena's pulse raced. She knew what he was asking, and every rational instinct screamed to slow down. But her heart was louder. Okay, she said, barely recognizing her own voice. His penthouse was a world of glass and steel, the city sprawling below like a sea of stars. The elevator ride was silent, charged, their hands brushing. Inside, Lena barely registered the sleek furniture or the art that probably cost a fortune. Alex turned to her, his expression a mix of desire and vulnerability. You sure, he asked, giving her an out. She stepped closer, her hands sliding up his chest, unbuttoning his shirt with deliberate slowness. I'm sure, she said, her voice steady, despite the fire in her veins. His hands found her waist, pulling her flush against him, and their kiss was a spark to kindling. Lena's gown slipped to the floor, pooling like liquid night, and Alex's shirt followed his skin, warm under her touch. They moved to the sofa, a tangle of limbs, and whispered names, each touch a promise, each breath a vow. The city's glow bathed them, and as they melted into each other, Lena felt something shift, not just desire, but a connection that scared her as much as it thrilled her. When it was over, they lay tangled together, the silence soft and heavy. Alex traced patterns on her back, his voice a murmur. "You're everything, Lena." She wanted to believe it, but Vivian's words lingered a shadow she couldn't shake. "We'll see," she said, her voice light, but her heart guarded. Lena Brooks had always prided herself on keeping her head above water no matter how rough the current. Growing up in Harlem, she'd learned to dodge life's punches late, rent her mom's arthritis flares, the grind of night shifts and nursing school. But lately, loving Alex Chen felt like swimming in a riptide, pulling her further from the shore of who she was. Their nights together, dancing in Harlem clubs, whispering in his penthouse, were magic. But the daylight brought whispers and stares that cut deeper than she'd expected. It started small, like pebbles before a landslide. A week after the Vertex Gala, Lena was restocking her cleaning cart when Sophia Tate, her best friend and Harlem's sassiest hairstylist, burst into the supply closet waving a glossy magazine like a battle flag. "Girl, you seen this?" Sophia demanded, flipping to a dog-eared page. Lena's stomach dropped. There in full color was a photo of her and Alex at the gala, her in that burgundy gown, him in his tux, both smiling like the world was theirs. The headline screamed, "Vertex CEO's mystery woman who is Lena Brooks." The caption was worse. Alexander Chen, 39, spotted with Lena Brooks, a janitor at Vertex Tower at the Met's annual gala. Sources questioned the unlikely pairing. "Oh, hell no," Lena muttered, snatching the magazine. The article was a mix of corporate gossip about Vertex's shaky stock and speculation about her, her job, her background, even a snide mention of her humble Harlem roots. It felt like someone had ripped open her life for the world to gawk at. "Page 6 is eating this up," Sophia said, not unkindly. "They're calling you the Cinderella of Harlem." Cinderella didn't have student loans and a mom to take care of, Lena snapped, tossing the magazine into her cart. "This is a nightmare. It'll blow over," Sophia said, squeezing her shoulder. "But girl, you're dating New York's hottest bachelor. People notice." Lena's phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Have you seen it? I'm so sorry. Can I come over tonight?" She typed a quick yes before shoving her phone away. The rest of her shift was torture, every co-worker's glance feeling like a judgment. By the time she got home to Harlem, exhaustion clung to her like damp clothes. Constance was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of collard greens, the air thick with the scent of smoked turkey. "You look like you lost a fight, mija," she said, her eyes sharp despite her gentle tone. Lena slumped into a chair, rubbing her temples. "More like I'm in one I didn't sign up for. Me and Alex are all over some dumb magazine. They're acting like I'm a gold digger who tricked him." Constance set her spoon down her face, softening. "People always got something to say when they're jealous. What matters is what you and Alex think." "That's the problem, Mama," Lena said, her voice cracking. "I don't know what I think anymore. I love him, but it's too much." Before Constance could reply, a knock sounded at the door. Lena opened it to find Alex, his usual polish, replaced by a rumpled button-down and dark circles under his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said, stepping inside. "I knew there were photographers at the gala, but I didn't think they'd turn it into this." Lena led him to the couch, her heart a tangle of anger and relief. "It's not just the article, Alex. It's everything. The looks, the whispers, the way your world keeps reminding me I don't belong." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd come to recognize as stress. I should have prepared you better. The press can be brutal when they latch onto a story. It's not just the press, she said, her voice rising. It's your assistant, your board people like that Whitfield woman telling me I'm a phase you'll get over. And part of me wonders if they're right. They're not, he said fiercely, taking her hands. Lena, you're not a phase. I love you. I've never said that to anyone else, and I mean it. Constance, sensing the weight of the moment, cleared her throat. I'll let you two talk. Got a quilt to finish. She retreated to her bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Lena leaned into Alex, his warmth a comfort despite her turmoil. So what do we do now? We've got options, he said, his thumb stroking her hand. We can keep a lower profile, let this die down, or we can make a statement, control the narrative. What like? Yeah, the billionaire and the janitor are in love, move on. She tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. He winced. You're not a janitor. You're Lena Brooks, the most incredible woman I've ever met, who's putting herself through nursing school and taking care of her mom. She managed a small smile. That's sweet, but it don't fit on a press release. The point is, we don't let them define us, he said, his voice steady. But if this is too much, I get it. You didn't sign up for this. The thought of walking away hurt worse than the headlines. I'm not going anywhere, she said, squeezing his hand. We'll figure it out. But figuring it out was harder than either of them expected. The headlines didn't fade. They multiplied. Photographers staked out her apartment, their flashes like gunfire in the Harlem dusk. Reporters emailed her for interviews, and even her cleaning clients started asking nosy questions about Alex. Lena tried to shrug it off, but the scrutiny was a weight she couldn't shake. She jumped at shadows, checked her shoulder on the subway, and her nursing school grades dipped as she struggled to focus. Alex went into protective mode, hiring a security consultant to coach her on dodging paparazzi and offering to move her and Constance to a hotel. We're not running from our home, Lena told him, her voice firm. This is temporary. They'll get bored. But weeks passed, and the spotlight only burned brighter. Someone at Vertex Lena suspected Vivian leaked the story of their first meeting, twisting Alex's balcony moment into a fairy tale, how a janitor saved a CEO from despair. The headlines were relentless, painting Lena as a saintly savior, and Alex as a broken prince. Social media exploded, some calling her an inspiration, others a schemer. The narrative wasn't theirs anymore. It belonged to the world. Alex was furious, pacing Lena's cramped living room one evening, his phone buzzing with board member calls. I'm going to find who leaked this and make them regret it, he vowed, his voice tight. Alex, stop, Lena said, exhausted from a double shift. Getting mad won't help. Could have been anyone, a security guard, another cleaner. It's done. It's an invasion, he insisted. Our story isn't theirs to sell. She looked at him, his anger a mirror to her own, and felt a crack in her heart. Maybe it's not just about the leak. Maybe it's about us trying to fit into a world that keeps pushing me out. He froze, his eyes searching hers. What are you saying? I don't know, she admitted, wrapping her arms around herself. I love you, but it's changing me. I'm not studying. I'm barely sleeping. And every time I step into your world, I feel like I'm losing a piece of Lena Brooks. Lena, please, he said, stepping closer, his voice breaking. We can fix this. I'll make changes, scale back anything. That's just it, she said, tears spilling over. I don't want you to change who you are, and I can't keep changing myself to fit your life. It's too much. He looked stricken, his hands reaching for her but stopping short. So, what do you want? To walk away? No, she said, her voice raw. What I want is to go back to when it was just us figuring this out without the whole world watching. But we can't, can we? He didn't answer, and the silence was answer enough. Lena wiped her eyes, her resolve hardening. I need space, Alex. To figure out who I am without all this noise. You're breaking up with me, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm asking for time, she corrected, though it felt like the same thing. To be sure what we have is enough to survive this. He stood there, frozen, his face a mask of grief. Then slowly he nodded. If that's what you need. Lena's heart shattered, but she forced herself to move. She grabbed her jacket, pressing a tearful kiss to his cheek. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never wanted to hurt you. I know, he said, his voice hollow. She left without looking back, knowing one glance at his face would break her. The subway ride home was a blur, the rattle of the train drowning out her sobs. She clutched her phone, tempted to call him to take it all back. Instead, she pulled up her music, letting Ella Fitzgerald's Summertime fill the void. The song's melancholy wrapped around her, a reminder of the life she was fighting to hold on to. Back in Harlem, Constance was waiting, her quilt spread across her lap. She took one look at Lena's tear-streaked face and opened her arms. Oh, mija, she said, pulling her close. What happened? I let him go. Mama Lena choked out, burying her face in her mom's shoulder. I had to. Constance stroked her hair, her voice soft. Sometimes loving someone means giving them space to grow. And giving yourself that space, too. Lena clung to her, the weight of her choice crushing her. She'd walked away from the man who'd seen her, loved her like no one else. And she had no idea if she'd ever find her way back. Lena Brooks had never been one to wallow, but the weeks after leaving Alex Chen felt like wading through molasses. Harlem's familiar rhythm, street vendors, hollering kids laughing on stoops, the faint hum of jazz from open windows kept her grounded, but it couldn't fill the hole in her chest. She threw herself into her nursing school classes, her hospital shifts, and caring for her mom, Constance, whose arthritis seemed to flare with the changing seasons. Work, study, repeat. It was her armor, a way to drown out the ache of missing Alex's laugh, his steady gray eyes, the way he'd made her feel seen. Her days were a blur of textbooks and bedpans, but nights were harder. She'd lie on her couch, scrolling through old texts from Alex, tempted to call him. Instead, she'd blast Nina Simone's Feeling Good and force herself to move on. She wasn't that girl pining for a man who lived in a world she'd never fit into. Still, every headline about Vertex Innovations, every glimpse of a suited figure on the subway sent her heart lurching. Sophia Tate, her best friend, and Harlem's resident truth-teller, wasn't letting her off easy. One Sunday, over plates of fried chicken and waffles at Sylvia's, Sophia fixed Lena with a no-nonsense stare. Girl, you look like you're auditioning for a sad music video. You miss him, don't you? Lena stabbed a waffle, avoiding Sophia's eyes. Who? Alex. I'm good. Got my books, my job, my mama. I don't need a billionaire complicating my life. Uh-huh, Sophia said, smirking. That's why you've been listening to My Man's Gone Now on repeat. Real talk, Lena, you love him. And love ain't supposed to be easy. It's not about love, Lena said, her voice sharper than she meant. It's about me. I was losing myself, Soph. Every time I stepped into his world, I felt like I was shrinking. Sophia softened, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. I get it. But you're Lena Brooks' toughest chick I know. You don't shrink for nobody. Question is, can you love him and still be you? Lena didn't have an answer, but Sophia's words stuck like a splinter. She started small, reclaiming pieces of herself. She joined a study group at school, laughing with classmates over coffee and anatomy flashcards. She volunteered at a Harlem community center, teaching kids to braid and telling them stories about her dad's bus routes. Slowly, the fog of heartbreak lifted, and Lena felt her roots growing stronger, her sense of self sharpening. But love, as Constance liked to say, had a way of sneaking back in. It happened on a crisp evening when Lena stopped by a pharmacy in Queens to pick up her mom's meds. The community center next door was buzzing, its windows glowing with warm light. Curious, she glanced inside and froze. There, in a cramped classroom, was Alex Chen's sleeves rolled up patiently, showing an elderly woman how to use a laptop. His hair was longer, messier, and he'd lost some of his CEO polish, but his smile was the same, soft and genuine. Lena's heart stuttered. What was he doing here in a Queens community center, far from his Manhattan empire? Before she could slip away, Alex looked up, their eyes locking through the glass. The world tilted, and for a moment neither moved. Then he excused himself, stepping outside to where she stood, her breath visible in the chilly air. "Hi," he said, his voice tentative, like he was afraid she'd vanish. "Hi," she replied, clutching the pharmacy bag like a lifeline. "Didn't expect to see you here. What's a CEO doing teaching tech to grandmas?" He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Not a CEO tonight. Just a guy trying to make a difference. I volunteer here Fridays teaching basic computer skills. It's not changing the world, but it's changing theirs." Lena finished, her voice soft. "That matters?" He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I'm learning that." An awkward silence fell, months of separation stretching between them. Lena studied him, thinner, tired, but somehow lighter, like he'd shed a weight she hadn't noticed before. "You look good," she said, then cringed at how lame it sounded. "So do you," he replied, his eyes tracing her face. "Happier, maybe." "Getting there," she admitted. "You same," he said, then hesitated. "I've missed you, Lena. Every damn day." Her throat tightened, his honesty cracking her carefully built walls. "I've missed you too," she said, barely above a whisper. "But I needed this, to figure out who I am without all the noise. I know," he said, his voice raw. "And you were right to walk away. I was asking you to fit into my world without changing mine. That wasn't fair." She blinked, surprised by his clarity. "Didn't think you'd see it that way." "I didn't at first," he admitted. "I was pissed, then hurt, then I started listening. To you, to myself. I've been making changes, Lena. Real ones. Like what she asked, curiosity overriding her caution." He gestured toward the classroom. "This for starters. I've cut back on social crap, delegated more at work, set boundaries with the board. I'm trying to figure out what I want, not just what my dad's ghost expects." Lena's chest ached with a mix of pride and longing. "Sounds like you're finding yourself too." "Trying," he said, his smile bittersweet. "But it's not the same without you." The air between them crackled heavy with what-ifs. Lena wanted to reach for him to close the gap, but fear held her back. "I should let you get back," she said, nodding toward the center. "Your students need you." "We're wrapping up," he said quickly. "Want to grab a coffee, or just walk? The park nearby's nice this time of night." She hesitated, her heart and head at war, but Sophia's words echoed. "Can you love him and still be you?" "A walk sounds good," she said finally. 20 minutes later, they strolled through a small Queens park, the air crisp with the promise of fall. Streetlights cast golden pools on the path, and the distant hum of traffic felt like a lullaby. They talked at first about safe things, her nursing classes, his volunteer work, the way the city never slept. But as they reached a quiet pond, its surface reflecting the stars, Alex stopped, turning to face her. "I've been thinking a lot about us," he said, his voice steady but vulnerable. "About where we went wrong. I pushed you to adapt to my life, and I didn't see how much it was costing you." Lena's breath caught. "I wasn't exactly perfect either. I kept expecting it to crash and burn, so I didn't fight as hard as I could have." He shook his head. "You fought plenty. You were honest about what you needed. I'm the one who didn't listen." He took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers. "I don't want to lose you again, Lena. But I don't want you to lose yourself either." If there's a way we can do this, build something that works for both of us, I want to try. Her heart pounded, hope and fear colliding. How your world still your world, Alex? The press, the board, all of it. I don't know if I can handle that again. Then we make a new world, he said, stepping closer. One where you're Lena Brooks, future nurse, Harlem's finest, and I'm just Alex, the guy who loves you. We set the rules, not them. She stared at him, his words sinking in. You make it sound so easy. It won't be, he admitted. But nothing worth having is. I'm not asking for forever, not yet. Just a chance to start over, figure it out together. Lena's eyes stung and she blinked back tears. I want that too, she said, her voice trembling. But I'm scared, Alex. Scared we'll end up right back here tearing each other apart. Then we go slow, he said, reaching for her hand. His touch was warm, grounding. We talk, we fight, we fix it, but we do it as equals. She squeezed his hand, feeling the weight of his promise. Okay, she said, a small smile breaking through. Let's try. He pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in months, Lena felt like she could breathe. His embrace was a home she'd thought she'd lost, and as she rested her head against his chest, the park's quiet wrapped around them like a vow. They walked back to the community center, hand in hand, the night air cool against their skin. Alex paused at the door, his expression soft. Can I see you tomorrow? Maybe grab those tacos again? Lena laughed, the sound lighter than she'd felt in weeks. Only if you're ready to try my mom's cornbread. It's a game changer. Deal, he said, his grin boyish. Night, Lena. Night, Alex, she said, watching him head inside. As she walked to the subway, her pharmacy bag swinging, a spark of hope flickered in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, they could build something new. Back in Harlem, Constance was waiting her quilt, a patchwork of colors under the lamplight. She took one look at Lena's face and smiled. You saw him, didn't you? Lena sank onto the couch, unable to hide her grin. Yeah, Mama. And we're gonna try again. Slow, but real. Constance nodded, her eyes warm. That's my girl. Love's a journey, mija. Keep your eyes open, and you'll find the way. Lena leaned into her mom's embrace, feeling stronger than she had in months. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time she believed they could walk it together. Lena Brooks had spent her life dodging curveballs, late bills, her mom's arthritis, the grind of nursing school while scrubbing corporate floors. But love, she was learning, was the trickiest pitch of all. A week after running into Alex Chen at that Queens Community Center, she was still reeling from their decision to try again. Slow, he'd promised, and Lena was holding him to it. No penthouse dinners or gala invites. This time just coffee dates, taco runs, and long walks, where they talked about everything and nothing. It felt like starting over, like rediscovering a song she'd forgotten the words to. Tonight, they were in a Brooklyn park, the late fall air crisp and sharp. The trees were bare, their branches clawing at a sky dusted with stars. Lena, in a leather jacket and jeans, walked beside Alex, their hands brushing with every step. He'd swapped his usual suits for a sweater and scarf, looking less like a CEO and more like the guy she'd met on that balcony, raw and real. You're quiet tonight, Alex said, glancing at her. Everything okay? Just thinking, Lena said, kicking a stray leaf. About us. How we got here. It's a lot. He stopped, turning to face her, his gray eyes soft in the streetlight's glow. Too much? Nah, she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. Just enough to keep me on my toes. You're still troubled, Chen. Only the good kind, he said, grinning. Then his expression turned serious. I meant what I said in Queens, Lena. I want us to build something new, something that's ours. Not my world, not yours, just us. Her heart did a little flip, but she kept her voice steady. "And what's that look like? 'Cause I ain't moving into your penthouse, and I'm pretty sure you're not bunking with me and Mama." He laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. "Fair. I was thinking, maybe we find a place together. Not now, but soon. A spot that's neutral, where we both feel at home." Lena raised an eyebrow, half teasing. "You trying to shack up already?" "Slow down, cowboy." "Not like that," he said, his cheeks flushing. "I mean a place we choose together, build together, a real partnership." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small silver key, its surface etched with a tiny star. "This is just a symbol. No address yet, no lease. But it's my promise we'll find it, Lena. A home for us." She stared at the key, her throat tightening. It wasn't a ring, wasn't a proposal, but it felt just as big. Her fingers closed around it, the metal cool against her palm. "You're serious about this?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Dead serious," he said, stepping closer. "I love you, Lena Brooks. Exactly as you are." Her eyes stung and she blinked back tears. "I love you too, Alex. But people are staring." He glanced around, noticing a few passers-by, gawking, probably thinking he'd just proposed. "Let 'em," he said, his grin mischievous. "I'm done caring what anyone thinks as long as I've got you." Lena laughed, pulling him down for a kiss. It was fierce, joyful, a collision of hope and promise. The park faded, the world shrinking to just them, their breaths mingling in the chilly air. When they broke apart, Alex's eyes sparkled with something new, certainty, maybe, or freedom. "Come on," she said, tucking the key into her pocket. "Let's get out of here before we make the evening news." They ended up at a diner nearby, splitting a plate of fries and trading stories like they'd never been apart. Lena told him about her latest nursing exam, how she'd aced it, despite a patient throwing up on her shoes. Alex shared a story about teaching an 80-year-old at the community center to send her first email, his pride infectious. It was simple, real, the kind of night Lena had always wanted with him. A few days later, they took their first step toward that promised home. A realtor showed them a loft in Brooklyn, all exposed brick and big windows, the kind of place that felt like a blank canvas. The space was empty, echoing with potential, and Lena couldn't help but imagine it filled with her mom's quilts, Alex's vinyl records, maybe a table for Sunday dinners. They wandered the rooms, joking about where the couch would go, and when Alex tripped over a loose floorboard, Lena laughed so hard she nearly cried. "Graceful Chen," she teased, steadying him. "You sure you're ready for Brooklyn?" "Only if you're here to catch me," he said, pulling her close. Their laughter faded into a kiss, soft at first, then deepening, the empty loft amplifying their breaths. Lena's hands slid under his jacket, feeling the warmth of his skin through his shirt. He lifted her onto a dusty windowsill, her legs wrapping around him, and their kisses turned playful, punctuated by giggles when she accidentally knocked his scarf to the floor. The sunlight streamed through the windows, bathing them in gold, and as they sank into each other, Lena felt a spark of something new, not just love, but possibility. They pulled apart, breathless and grinning, the loft feeling less empty, like it was already theirs. "We're gonna make this work," Alex said, his forehead against hers. "Yeah," Lena agreed, her heart full. "We are. But fairy tales, even the real ones, always had a final test." It came a week later during a Sunday dinner at Constance's apartment. The table was piled high with cornbread, collard greens, and fried catfish, the air thick with the scent of home. Sophia was there cracking jokes about Lena's fancy new boyfriend, while Constance presided like a queen, her laughter warm. Alex fit in surprisingly well. His sleeves rolled up as he helped clear plates, his charm winning even Sophia's skeptical approval. "Man's got manners," Sophia whispered to Lena, nudging her. "And he ate 2 helpings of catfish. He's a keeper." Lena grinned, but before she could reply, a knock at the door startled them. She opened it to find Vanessa Reed, the Vertex PR rep, who'd made her life hell. Vanessa looked different. Her usual polish dulled her eyes red like she'd been crying. "Lena," she said, her voice shaky. "Can we talk?" Lena's jaw tightened, but she stepped aside, letting Vanessa in. The room went quiet. Constance and Sophia exchanging wary glances. Alex stood, his expression hardening. "What are you doing here, Vanessa?" Vanessa wrung her hands, her gaze flickering between them. "I owe you both an apology. I was the one who leaked your story to the press, the balcony, the gala, all of it. I thought if I could make Lena look like a gold digger, Alex would see she didn't belong. I was wrong." Lena's blood ran cold, anger flaring. "You put my life on blast 'cause you were jealous. Do you know what that did to me?" "I know," Vanessa said, tears spilling over. "I was stupid, selfish. I wanted Alex not because I loved him, but because he was a prize. Seeing you two how real it is, it made me realize I'll never have that. I'm sorry, Lena. Truly." Lena stared at her, torn between fury and pity. "Thanks for owning up," she said finally, her voice cool. "But we don't need your approval to move on." Alex stepped forward, his voice firm. "You crossed a line, Vanessa. I'll deal with this at Vertex, but don't come near us again." Vanessa nodded, wiping her eyes, and left without another word. The room was silent, the weight of her confession hanging heavy. Constance broke the tension, setting a plate of cornbread on the table. "Well, that was a plot twist. Y'all want dessert?" Lena laughed. The sound shaky but real, and the dinner resumed lighter now, like a storm had passed. But the real twist came later as Lena and Alex washed dishes in the tiny kitchen. His phone buzzed and he glanced at it, his face paling. "It's my mom," he said, his voice tight. "She's in New York, wants to see me." Lena paused, a soapy plate in her hands. "That's big. You haven't talked to her in years, right?" "Not really," he said, his jaw tight. "But there's more. She's sick, Lena. Cancer. She wants to make things right, and she wants to meet you." Lena's heart skipped. Lillian Porter, the woman who'd left Alex as a kid, whose shadow had shaped so much of his pain, was reaching out now. "Meet me. Why, she's been following the press," he said, his voice heavy. "She knows about us, knows you're important to me. I think she's curious. And maybe scared she's running out of time." Lena set the plate down, her mind racing. "You want me to come with you?" He looked at her, his eyes raw. "Only if you want to. I know it's a lot. My mom's complicated. But I'd love for you to be there." She hesitated, the weight of it all pressing down. Meeting Lillian meant stepping back into Alex's world, facing the kind of judgment she'd fought to escape. But then she looked at him, her Alex, the man who'd changed his life for her, who'd chosen her over everything, and knew her answer. "I'll go," she said, taking his hand. "But we do this our way, Alex. No playing by her rules or anyone else's. Just us." He pulled her close, his lips brushing her forehead. "Just us," he agreed, his voice a vow. The next day they boarded a flight to California, where Lillian was staying. Lena leaned against Alex, the hum of the plane soothing her nerves. Outside, the clouds stretched endless, a canvas of possibility. She didn't know what awaited them, reconciliation, rejection, or something in between. But for the first time she wasn't afraid. They'd built something real, something worth fighting for, and no matter what came next, they'd face it together. As the plane soared, Lena slipped the star-etched key from her pocket, its weight a reminder of their promise. She squeezed Alex's hand, feeling his warmth, his strength. "Ready for this?" she asked, her voice soft. "With you," he said, his smile steady. "Always."